And this is how our campaign ended. Hello everybody. Quite some months ago, a little known booktuber known as Daniel Greene, you know the guy, no. He's fine, go sub to him. I'll promote his channel here. Go watch his videos, he's cool. I did a video about the Dresden Files, and more specifically he did a review about the book called Days. If you don't know what the Dresden Files are, you're missing out on one of the best fantasy series currently being published. It's an urban fantasy series by Jim Butcher, and in this video we'll talk about some of the later stuff in the series about book 14 and onward. So yeah, there will be spoilers. If you haven't read the Dresden Files, you'll probably be hard to follow this video. So yeah, go read the series, it's awesome. And I'm still waiting for my next Dresden Files books to come, and so I can read these stocks. Daniel Greene, this booktuber, said the following thing about Dresden Files.
This leads to one of the most dangerous elements Butcher is now playing with in his series, and we can't really judge whether or not yet he's going to totally land it. It's the thing I'm most nervous about in terms of the conclusion of Dresden. We're in the Endgame now, quote unquote, and it's one of the things I'm most concerned to see where it's going to go. And that's this Lovecraftian influence coming into play, these outsiders that are beyond, our realm. I get the temptation as an author to play with these Lovecraftian elements because they're so much fun, they're so different, they're so extreme, but it's really difficult to stick the landing.
And you know what? He's right. He has every reason to fear, even though I personally trust that Jim Butcher has a plan and he will be able to pull this through. But I had this bad experience as I was role-playing in the Dresden Files RPG. Because yes, there's a Dresden Files RPG by Evil Hat Productions. My experience with Dresden Files RPG is as follows. One of my friends, one of my gaming buddies, had read the series Dresden Files. I had only read the first two books by then, and I was not impressed by Full Moon, so I was delaying reading the next book. And he read Stormfront. He was blown away by the world, and he went on and binged through the entire series. So back in 2014, he found out there was a Dresden Files RPG. He got the book and he was so excited and wanted us to play, and he would be the game master. I'll tell you what, the Dresden Files RPG is amazing. It's running on a system called Fate, which really blew me away because it was a system that allowed for a lot of customization of characters. And our group, we were a steady group of 4 years by then. We've been role-playing with each other for this long, and there was good chemistry between us, between the players, and we were able to make some very interesting characters and have a lot of fun. And what's great about Fate, the system really manages to seamlessly blend roleplay and mechanics, meaning that when you play your character to his or her full extent, to their core, it rewards you and also punishes you for playing this character in a very interesting way because of the fate points and the aspects. We had a lot of fun. We were running a campaign in London. I was playing wizard that was working for Scotland Yard, mage detective. I don't know, sometime I may take this character or maybe the other characters of my group and have a story about that, but I'm not sure when this will happen because I don't quite have the story I want to tell, and the game master is a bit of a person to blame for this. By the time the campaign started, he had read up to Cold Days and also the short story collection of Jim Butcher, and he read something he was owed by the Oblivion War. For those who haven't read the short story collection, Odd Jobs, I think, there's a short story featuring Thomas, and here we learn quite a lot about what seems to be the Dresden Files Endgame. We learn about the Venerati and about the Oblivion War, and the Oblivion War is basically, there's this group of beings who try to dispose of forgotten gods who have, because they were forgotten, they became these Lovecraftian entities that are nameless and unfathomable, and he fell in love with this idea. So we're running a campaign where somebody was trying to summon one of those entities, and every NPC the group met was like, oh, but I can't tell you what it is. It's unfathomable, you won't understand. And this was happening while we were getting deeper into the campaign. And believe me, when you're the storyteller, because I guess a game master is also a storyteller, and you tell your characters and your audience, because players are both characters and audience in role-playing games, which is this kind of interesting, that you can't explain what is happening. Yeah, the audience gets kind of lost. I mean, okay, Lovecraft managed to pull the Lovecraftian terror because he was cutting the story at the point that there is something unfathomable and you cannot understand it, and there are a lot of adjectives and disjointed phrases, and then the journal that the character was writing as this thing was approaching ends, and you just feel this vague sense of dread, and he was great at it. And many of his copycats actually did the same thing, or they tried to explain how it was working, and August Darth did that, and I hate him for this, okay? But still, the idea is that you got the sword. If you want to go longer into the unfathomable horror, you have to put a strong antagonist in there. You have to put a force, a being, an entity, something known that represents that threat. I mean, I can think of John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, where you have these, spoiler, you have these elder gods, beings, but you also have Sutter Kane as a threat in the background. Since the first minute in the movie, you know that there's this Sutter Kane guy, and he is important to the plot. And yes, there is this unfathomable horror element, but there is also something known, and this makes the audience relate to that, meaning that there is somebody you know and you have to fight. And in our case, we had something unfathomable. We had a lot of non-player characters give us warnings that we should not know about what it is and that they can explain, and we got frustrated, and this is how our campaign ended. And as we were playing, I was borrowing my friends' copies of the Dresden Files, and I was going through them at an incredible pace because they're great books and I love them. And I was probably reading a Dresden File book a week, maybe every second week, because the other people in the group want to borrow the books too. So we had to arrange, have you finished it? Have you finished it? Give it to me, I want it. This kind of situation. And by the time we finished our campaign, we decided to call it a day because we were frustrated. And I got to Odd Jobs, and I read the Thomas story there, and I was like, oh, that was what our storyteller was trying to do. And, it didn't work, because when you talk about the abstract, you need some sort of anchor to reality. That's what I learned from this botched Dresden RPG campaign. And I trust Jim Butcher also knows that, and he has a plan for having a known quantity behind this force if the endgame is in fact the Oblivion War and is not something put in the background. I get the idea that the hooded figure, I cannot recall the name right now, he's the Hood, the big mystery villain in Dresden Files at the moment. I'm not googling names. Is actually this figure, this known quantity for the unknowable evil that will come. So that was my view on Lovecraftian horror in Dresden Files. And yes, I get why Daniel Greene is a bit worried about this. Again, I trust Jim Butcher, but I have seen this fail, and I want to do this video as a warning, as a lesson in storytelling I've learned, that don't be too abstract, don't be too clever. Give your audience or your players or both something solid so they can go on and keep the mystery alive and reveal parts of it and explain parts of it. because if your mystery is unfathomable, I don't give a fuck. I hope you give a fuck about this video. If you did, smash the like button. Subscribe for more videos like that on geeky stuff, writing, reading, gaming, watching stuff, I don't know. Whatever geeky stuff I'll come up with. And I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.